The next speaker is Professor Suresh Jain from Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, IIT Tirupati. So he graduated with his doctoral thesis from IIT Delhi, and his research interests lie in the area of air quality modeling and management, environmental risk assessment, integrated impact assessment, and sustainability assessment. Today he's going to talk to us about advancing urban transport and sustainability through AI-based emission mapping, policy scenario modeling, and the built environmental health nexus. Maybe he's going to touch upon some human-created problems that may be solvable. Thank you, Suresh.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to the Academy and IISER Tirupati for giving the opportunity to present our work. This is a very recent work. We were just trying to connect what Arunima was trying to see, how the AI, ML, or deep learning can help in better understanding of the things to understand the pollution. And I understand that the previous topic was also very close to us, and this is also very close to, because air we breathe is having no boundary, and wherever we are, like it's exposed to. And now I think everybody is hearing about multiple cities. Air pollution is really a big problem. And in India, we have identified almost 133 non-attainment cities. And non-attainment city means like where the pollution levels are beyond the national ambient air quality standards. And why it is a concern? Because you see some of the natural resources have certain boundaries, but definitely air will not have any boundary. So wherever you generate, it can move to the next location, and how much the people are there, they exposed, is going to be a problem. Like recently you saw in Delhi, because Delhi comes always in the picture. And that's where, like you see, recently it was shown that the government was trying to say even they permitted the crackers, but still air quality is better than the previous years. So that's where how the politics also works somehow to justify the things. And you heard about that, most of the monitoring stations where you are measuring the air quality, you are spraying the water to bring down the levels of the pollutants. And then you are claiming that your air quality is better than the previous time. So I don't know what we are trying to do. Sometimes we are trying to do like hiding the data, but ultimately we all are exposed to. It's not like the people, they are not exposed to. Definitely air quality having an issue is, it's not restricted to one place, most importantly. And the second important reason is air quality will not affect everybody with the same level. For example, we are sitting in their air-conditioned auditorium, so we will not be definitely exposed the amount if somebody is on the outside very close to the roadside. So their exposure is going to be very, very high compared to us who are sitting in a closed AC room. So that is also, there is a difference. And fortunately, unfortunately, what happens is the people who are exposed more is not really getting the benefit of the things. For example, you heard about that the people starts buying the purifiers. The people who are you can say the outdoor workers, traffic police, the people who spends more time in the ambient environment, and they really just struggle for the bread and butter, like evening they will eat something in the evening after putting some efforts, right? So they don't afford the purifiers or such type of technologies, but their exposure is really on a higher side. I was working on one of the topic like lung cancer with AIIMS, and we were studying like, because it's easy because AIIMS having a huge data of the lung cancer patients, and then we realized that the women where the maximum lung cancers are coming, the women who spend a lot of time on the cooking, and especially from the rural area. And we can understand if we realize that how the cooking happens in the rural area, the women from the early age, they start preparing meal for their family, right? And biomass, which is like a very crude way of burning in the small traditional way of the cook stove, and their emissions, like most of our monitors fails to monitor because the quantity, in terms of pollutant is so high, even the monitors fails to measure it. So you can understand that whatever you expose in a day, they even less than 10 minutes or 20 minutes, they expose that much amount of the pollution. So their lung cancer were more related to this, and the men who is having more like an addiction with the smoking are having more inclined towards the lung cancer is there. And that's one of the important reasons, like air quality. I remember when I was in the masters, and so we were listening about the Millennium Development Goals. Now we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and we never saw like environment is going to be in a reason of premature deaths across, when you see the top 10 causal factors of premature deaths across the globe. And air pollution comes as the top 5 causal factors, which is making lots of premature deaths. That's really unfortunate. And what sir was trying to say, like we all are responsible for this. And that is where the things are there. And in engineering principle, what we taught how to control. So last part, like we see like 4, 5, 6 steps are there. And the options are there. Last is the prevention. And when we see like what cities are doing, like in the name of control of air pollution, we are adopting the last step. We are not going with the basic fundamental control measures where we are supposed to. Like for example, you heard about that the smoke tower has been installed in a city. So how you will see the smoke tower is going to help you? Like we are just putting something in the air and there is no boundary in the atmosphere, right? And we are trying to clean the air in that area and trying to see like how it is going to be there. So whole picture, if you see from source to receptor, anything which is the source and ultimately how it is transformed or transported or transformed into another pollutant, finally coming to the receptor, people like us or any of the living beings or anybody. How exactly it is happening is important to understand. And the most important way to control is definitely you have to control at the source. If you go to any socio-economic cost-benefit analysis, whatever the way, you are going to find out that the most easy and cost-effective method is to control at the source. Prevention is the last measure in this particular area, and that's where we try to work and try to see how the advancements of the tools will help you to understand better. For example, I remember when I worked on one of the outdoor site for the traffic police in Delhi. So when we realized that many of the traffic police, because traffic police is known for some other reasons, people see like they ask for money when you jump a traffic light and so, but you never see like these are the people who spend most of the time they spend very close to the roadside, and the emissions which comes from the vehicles like diesel and petrol or any other fuel, you are going to see that is the most dangerous, or it's having lots of carcinogenic products also there, right? So you will find out that the time they spend more and more in that particular job, they are having a lot of symptoms with a lot of like issues with the medical issues are there. We are not realizing how it is happening. Then the study has been published. It is taken by the media, and then finally we start getting some call from the commissioners, and so who have permitted, have done. Finally, but then it's realized that it is benefit for that society or for their people, right? And they got to know like what are the options are there. For example, if you are spending more time continuously in that area, if you only shift of the person who is from in a high exposed area to a low exposed, or maybe in the indoor environment, you can really save some of those damages, and by the time the body can rejuvenate and can be perform better. So there are ways and means where you can do that. So instead of going into more like numbers, we know that really air quality is a problem, and not in like in our country, most of the South Asian part of the country, air pollution is really a bad situation. And when you talk about even in the entire country, so definitely the north part, because of the meteorological regions and geographical regions, like you heard about that most of the time, Indo-Gangetic Plain, the top north part is always exposed to the higher air pollution levels. And we always talks about the multiple events are coming, whether we talks about some festivals, then the stubble burning, and you always see last 3-4 months of the typical winter time, we start debating who contributes how much, and finally the summer comes, and then the people will stop discussing, and the next winter again we start discussing about the same problem. But you are realizing that your cities are congested. Like if you see like sometime when you talk about Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, and so, yeah, the cities are getting very slow down. And getting slow down means more and more time you're spending on the roads. It means more and more emissions are coming. And the most important is why it is so important, because what the emission factors they give the companies, it's a more of a static emission factors. And if you remember that there was a study where the US have identified the Volkswagen, when the real-time emissions they have measured, it was almost 9 to 15 times higher than the static emission factors. So means when your vehicle is on the road, it is, if you are claiming that X amount of emissions are coming per kilometer you drive the vehicle, but sometimes what happen, or most of the time what happen, when it is actually on the road, emissions can be 5 to 15 times higher than the static emission factors. And what happens is when you do calculate those emissions which is contributed by a particular sector, so-called transport, you always hide the emissions, and it will not come out like it is a very significant components of significantly contributing to the air quality. And that's where like we never come up with like which sector is contributing how much. Whatever the type of models you use, you're not able to, because most of the time you use the static emission factors. Then we talk about that increased private vehicles, daily urban travel demands, public transport. We know most of the cities, what is the situation of our public transport is there. Increased in travel time, decreased in travel speed, increased fossil fuel, like Tom and this congestion index have showcased that Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru coming out in the top 5 slow, you can say slow in speed in the vehicles in the world. And when you talk about the congestion also, they are on the top 10. So you can understand that typical urban, in the urban environment or urban city, speed of an average vehicle should be around like 25 to 40 kilometer per hour. Or in the congestion time, rush hours, it should be around 25 kilometers per hour. But if you are going to look around like what is happening in Kolkata, Bengaluru, Delhi, Pune, and so, it is almost like a 15 kilometer per hour. So that's, you can see the amount of time you spend on roads. So at the same time, slowdown of the vehicles is also increasing more and more pollution. And importantly, what the most important part is, the people who stay around the roadsides are really exposed more. So for example, you talk about your street vendors, street sweepers, traffic police, the people who are around the roadsides, they are exposed the more, not the people like us who are sitting in the air-conditioned room. So that's where the differential like spatio-temporal variations, when you see how the exposure, so exposure really matters where you are and how much you are exposed to, and then the damage is definitely happening according to this only. And then there are impacts, traffic congestion, infrastructure shortage, air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, human health. So all these are well connected. So it's a well connected theories there. I put the title, the nexus, but somehow looking into the time, I will not go up to that. But one of our study, we have gone into the built environment, travel behavior, and the environmental health. Like how exactly your built environment and the travel behavior and the environmental health is well connected, even though people are working in these dimensions. But most of the time they have worked on 2 dimensions, and we have worked on 3 dimensions. So once you understand this, even the existing city, you can see where the gaps are there. If you really want to improvise, looking into that type of theory, you can apply and then improvise the city. Or if you are planning something new, like desiltation is not an only problem. You see your design like in 1950, and till date, your storm drainage is working almost on the same way, right? So your capacity, the way the cities are expanding, the infrastructure is not expanding to accommodate those things. And that's why it is not able to sustain that when the extreme events are happening. And extreme events are the alarming signals to us. If you are not going to take the measures on time, definitely damage. So what we have tried to do in this case, we have used certain, like what Arunima was trying to see, how the CNN model or the deep learning, machine learning, AI, how these tools will help us to understand better instead of doing the static way or the conventional way. For example, when we do the traffic analysis, so we were doing like more like go to the roadsides and then counting each and every vehicle. You have to put people, like 10 people, they are counting the different category of vehicles, how many vehicles are passing. Then you come to the lab, then analyzing the things. But nowadays, it's like tools are there. It can be easy, like where you can use drones, you can use CCTV, which are by default, like CCTVs are installed in many of the cities. So CCTV can capture the images or the records. That can be trained by like CNN model, like what Arunima tried like explain how those model can be done. Why, like for example, in the bottom side, if you see that what is happening in this case is like it's a more of a traditional way, like you take the registration RTO data, and in RTO data, what is happening is when you see actually the vehicles which are on road is not the same which is registered in the RTO. The problem is what is happening in this case is like, and then you try to use those numbers which is not actually representative of your the vehicles which are there on the roads, and that results into like error in your output, and you will not able to contribute what exactly the emissions are. So what we have done, we have taken two examples, like one is the Tirupati city and one of the Vijayawada city. Vijayawada city is one of the known attainment city, and Tirupati being like we are here, so that's why we have taken this one example. So what we have done, we have recorded some of the images, like how the vehicles are running on the roads. We have trained the model using the YOLO and the CNN techniques, and we try to get an accuracy of almost like 93% accuracy in terms of vehicle classification, count, and the speed estimations. So because once you know how exactly the vehicles are, what type of vehicles are there, and how many vehicles are there, and what is the speed, because speed varies the emissions also. So that has been accounted, and then based on that, like you can see what type of vehicle is moving, and in real time you can count, and in the real time you can have an emission inventory. So instead of having a static inventory once in 5 years to making, if you train your model, so some of the data which is captured automatically in the, which is by default like either the traffic police or RTO are doing, that data can be like used directly and can be to see like how the emissions are coming in that city. So once you train your model, it will identify which vehicle, what type of classifications are there, and then you can in the real time you can see how the number of vehicles are going, and then you can convert into like based on the category and the fuel, you can try to see like how the numbers are counted. And in the diurnal pattern, you can see the entire like 24-hour cycle. You see what type of vehicle, how many vehicles are there, and how the speed varies. That can be accounted into the system. And that is where you can see the entire road network. You can see where the emissions are high, where the emissions are low, and what are the hotspots, what particular time the emissions are high. And it will give you a picture or an understanding to the decision makers, or the, like for example, now the responsibility of improving the air quality in the cities are the ULBs, urban local bodies. So fortunately, we have taken some model from Europe and implemented in India, and where we know the urban local bodies are still not able to manage our solid waste and day-to-day problems, right? And the air quality, they don't know the ABC of air quality as on date, but the responsibility was given to the urban local bodies, and somehow they don't know what to do. And I see like Sir is here, like from NARL, we have done few of the cities, and many of the places when we did the audit, we found that entire money is going into road making, road shoulder making, just putting some, you can say, plantation. So in the name of air quality improvement, this is what the interventions are happening, and we are thinking we are able to improve our air quality. This is not going to happen that way, because air quality is not that easy phenomenon like to be controlled like this. So what it helps is like in the real time, when you use certain advanced tools, it will help us understanding in the real time what time exactly how much emissions are there, and how you have to control, and where the hotspots are there. Hotspots means in a particular area you can see like where the pollution is, like for example in the city center, the pollution is becoming high, and what is the concentration, and if you want to take the measures at that particular time, you can take in a decision. So that is how these tools will help in the real-time measurements. And if it is connected, for example, all CCTVs, which is already there and capturing the data, if it can be connected with these type of tools, you can get in the real-time emissions, and that where you can take in a decision how to control that. So this is how like we have identified different pollutants like particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, which is one of the important, you can say, emissions from the transport sector. So this is like carbon monoxide. You can see the different time of in the diurnal way when and where the pollution concentration is going to be very, very high. Similarly, we have done for the Vijayawada. Vijayawada also, like, we have done a lot of surveys, and finally what we have done is, like, we have checked, like, what are the different policy, the government policy, whether it is national level or the state level, and how it is going to make an impacts. For example, if somebody have visited the Vijayawada, one of the main national highway is actually passing through the center of the city. So one of the important things you see, national highway and passing through the city, when the city is already there, and 90% of your goods vehicles which don't have any business in the city is just passed through the city, and they are just creating a lot of emissions to the city. Fortunately, unfortunately, your wind directions, like, it's most of the things which is whatever, like, if you see in winter, whatever you release on the roadsides, everything is coming to the city, even though you are releasing outside. Airport is outside in this direction, and even those emissions are coming to the city. Only the fortunate part is, yeah, just I'll conclude here. So good part is here that if you are able to see how the meteorology is there, how the wind direction is there, and if you propose this highway from outside the city and directly it goes to the, like, beyond the city level, 90% of vehicles just go, like, from the outer roads instead of they just entered into the city. Like, for example, if you remember, in Delhi was the same problem, and now the two outer peripheral roads have been made so that those vehicles which they don't have any business in the city, they will just go there directly from those roads instead of they coming into the city. So those things are there, the small measures are there, those can be taken into account if you really want the city has to be having a improved air quality. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suresh, for that wonderful talk. The floor is open to questions.
That was really interesting talk. I'm curious about a way forward. So, it's really nice to, look at the impacts of what's going on, try to retrofit policies to how, to think about it, but it's still post hoc. So I was wondering have you considered thinking about some training modules for city planners and something proactive rather than, after the fact. And of course, it's very important to do these analyses, but going forward, like, there's so many new cities being developed, how can we start with kind of a more, just even a logical way to think about emissions going forward?
Yeah, means as a part of the National Clean Air Program, and many of our institutions are so-called institutes of repute. Actually, they are the technical partners with the ULBs, pollution control boards. But fortunately, unfortunately, what is happening is ULBs are also not coming forward. The problem is, like, it's not the training models are not there. We are not helping them. In context to, like, for example, what I showcased you is only a very small part of the transport. Actually, we have worked out for the entire city how the sources are contributing the pollution in the city, whether it is coming out from outside the city or within the city, and how much a particular source is contributing. And at the same time, management plan has been also given.
I don't know whether you incorporate economics.
Yeah,
but I think the driver is money, right? At the end of it. So that is a really important thing which policymakers
that also
will not
have been
tell you
done,
about.
because when you are making a plan, so socio-economic components, like what is the profit, like in terms of benefits, co-benefits also have been accounted, so that some of the benefits may be in the immediate term, some of the benefits are on the long term. So those are also accounted when the management plan has been made. But what I am trying to tell, like, again, the accountability is the major issue. Like, for example, even the science-based action plan has been made, but the collector is deciding, like, what do you have to do. So, for example, you say today meeting happens, by the evening or next day, you have to make a plan, and that is actually implemented in the city, instead of people like us who really made the science-based action plan, which is really, you can say, the multiple, solution-oriented, is not really implemented.
So I think that's one thing, sorry, I'm taking too much time, I know, but one thing is, like, something we have started as wildlife people is going to the IGNFA, the training of these officers, and started to interact with them then. So I think maybe that's something also which is really important to consider.
That's happening, and that's why some of the cities are becoming little role models, like where they are really coming forward. So not only the ULBs, in fact, even the political parties also, they are also participating in these events. and then the pollution control board, who are actually responsible for industrial emissions, they're also understanding like where the roles and responsibilities are there, and at the same time the citizens, because their roles and responsibilities are also equally in this particular area. For example, we buy 5 vehicles, 2 we always keep standing, and then 3 we are on the right. So for small reasons, half a kilometer or a kilometer we start using our motorized vehicle, right? So multiple things are there where with the citizen science-based approach, we are trying with the people, we are giving those training, and then how they are like getting educated, and I think they are also coming forward. But it's a long journey, I believe, so it's not going to be easy. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the important talk. So I have a similar question. Like, so you have explained about the kind of the problems, but have you also looked into the optimal solution, like considering the benefits of this transport system? So have you looked into like some optimal solution to overcome this situation?
Yeah, you see, like in this case, when we have highlighted transport is one, we have given like 3 or 4 different options. Like one is, for example, even your national highway. You see, in Delhi, for example, the Delhi now they have the peripheral highways. You have Dwarka Expressway and another expressway is there, right? It was actually given in 2004 solution. And now this is implemented, like almost 20 years later, this is implemented. And you will find out that I told you, like we have in a complete data, for example, in case of Vijayawada, 90% of the goods vehicle, even more than 90% of goods vehicle, they don't have any business in the city, right? And then you made the national highway. It means the planners or the architect or different disciplines, they are not coming together. So when we are designing the city, there are multiple stakeholders who have to come forward and discuss, like in the existing city, what are the solutions? Those are proposed. But
No,
that's not
I mean,
going
is
to be
there a
immediate.
quantitative solution? Like you measured some that you have to reduce minimally, that you drop some critical number of vehicles so that the pollution will be reduced.
Yeah, those are also like, for example, like we are listening like how Beijing have reduced their emissions, right? So those models are also suggested. Like again, it's not like until the government or you can say the decision makers are not going to really take into account, it's not going to be that easy. In that case, what is happening is citizen also has to come forward, because it's not a problem of us only. It's a problem of everybody. And everybody have to understand in both ways, a responsibility to reduce their activities, number one, and to understand this is damaging, to come forward also to ask. Then only I think we'll be able to get the solution to be implemented on ground.
Okay, so on that point, my point or question may not be suitable to the audience, but I am saying that we are saying that we have to take the responsibility for this. And you say that one of the dominant problem is this vehicle in the road. So I am asking you and all the audience, how many of you are using the public transport to your daily life? If we are not solving this problem, then this discussion has no meaning. That's my point. I'm telling you and all the audience also.
Yeah, both the things are, sir. Like people are interested in using the public transport, then cities should have a public transport. Number one. One is this.
No, let me finish.
Yeah.
If you want to use the public transport, you tell that we need the public transport. But instead of Delhi says that we reduce the vehicle, odd number vehicle, people buy 2 vehicles. Just as that alternate they can run this vehicle. They do not want to use the public transport. So, but I do not think that government also has their restriction. You say that you need to make the road. To make the road, how many people you have to take out their land? To taking the land is not easy. You gave the solution, this road, but to taking out the land is not easy.
There is a trade-off, sir.
So, okay, let's say trade-off. But my point is that if you say the road is this, road transport is the main, then we are the people, the more responsible people, or doing the more pollution in the road. Like we people, we are driving the car in this road. Who are in the traffic signal driving, they are using the public transport.
Sir, in 2004, multimodal transport, I don't know how many knows about that. In the country, I was part of that program. Multimodal transport system was built in the country and means designed for the country, for Delhi, and only metro was implemented into the system. It was having monorail, light rail, BRT, then metro and the feeder connectivity was there. So 650 kilometer connectivity was there. But finally you see from the decision maker only the metro came into the picture. And that's why the metro is replicating. If that model was implemented, the city could have automatically replicated the models.
Suresh,
Yes, sir.
I am acutely aware we are running short of time.
Yes, sir.
Just quick comment. You have left one part, not because you wanted to leave it, but it happened
Yeah.
that pollution is a very serious problem and your study is very important. We have a scenario when Safai Karamchari takes the trash from the houses. He then leaves it open in several cities in the country.
Yes.
And this is causing pollution. The most vulnerable and affected people are those who then start scavenging those trashes.
Yes.
And then you have something called hospital abfall. Abfall means trash. And you also have something called plastics all over. The rampant use of plastic inlay. No. The rampant use of paper or eco-friendly stuff, that is fine. So we have to see things in the larger perspective to be able to ensure that we keep our city as clean as, for example, the campus of Tirupati. This IISER.
Correct.
Second point, which is very important, I am not worried now for vehicle because electrical vehicles are on the road. So sooner or later we will start having electrical vehicle, things will improve. But as you say, and we all agree, citizens' involvement is very important to be able for us to act in a responsible manner. Walking for a couple of kilometers for buying groceries is perfectly fine rather than using car. Thank you very much. No, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir, for the comments. It's very evident that was an exciting session.